guy that makes me feel very old. I remember watching his dad get drafted. And that is Akili Smith Jr., who plays at Lincoln High School in California. They're the 13th ranked team in California. He's got a 61 team power ranking, so they are pretty good, and a 36 SOS strength of schedule, also pretty good. He is the QB9 consensus on the industry ranks over at On3. He's got 81. He's the 81st player overall, and he's a big kid, 6'5", 226, very similar to his pops, who, of course, was Akili Smith Sr., who got drafted 3rd overall by the Bengals out of Oregon. Now, his son, Junior, is committed to Oregon, so following in the footsteps of his pops. Let's take a look here at the video. Okay, so what we see right away, I mean, I will start off with some positives. I think he throws a good catchable ball. Nice spiral, seems to have good trajectory on it, and I think that his receivers are going to like where he places that ball in a lot of circumstances. He is a 71st percentile athlete, so that's not bad overall. Velo is about 50 to 52, so he's kind of living on that fringe in terms of what we have for his ball velocity. And you can see it here, although occasionally I will say there are some throws that look pretty strong, pretty good, but overall it's inconsistent, and then some of these just don't quite look like they get there with that zip of the really high-end QBs that we like to see. He's a two-sport athlete, plays basketball. Last season, 64% completion for 2,400 yards about with a 10.5 yards per attempt. That's good. 25 TDs to 5 picks. That's pretty solid. And added 196 yards on the ground with 3 more touchdowns. Of course, he's got these NFL bloodlines with his dad picked very highly, although never did too much production-wise, but the talent and, the skills and the physical attributes, I think, did carry over. You'll watch him, he's not going to be a dual threat. And so that's just off the table, in my opinion. Even when he does run, he doesn't look natural. I don't think it's going to be something he utilizes, especially at the college game. And for fantasy purposes, I don't think you're going to be able to count too much on the ground game from Akili Smith Jr., So, he's one of these guys who's going to have to throw for 4,000 plus yards in terms of being fantasy relevant. I think he's one of those guys that does have some physical attributes. The arm strength isn't necessarily a cannon, but he does throw the ball pretty well. His accuracy numbers are pretty good, and efficiency numbers are pretty good at the high school level. But when you watch him, there's just not a lot of wow plays. There's not a lot of plays that just make you sit there with your mouth open like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he pulled that off. Not a lot of creative plays either, in my opinion. So I'm a little worried that, he's living a little maybe off on the name, perhaps, in terms of from a scouting perspective, from an industry perspective. And, I'll leave room for the fact that if he's an elite processor and executes a perfect game plan, of course he can be successful. That's a hard thing, I think, for us to evaluate at this stage, looking at his high school tape. It's something we try to do, but I think that's something that we can't really account for until the lights come on at the next level. So, of course, I'm going to leave that there as a possibility. But really, from what I can see now, I just kind of see medium floor, maybe a low upside type guy, who's not really too exciting from a fantasy angle. David, I'm going to kick it to you for the first counter or maybe agreements. What do you like about Akili Smith, and where do you think he lands here in this class?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement. I know we agree a lot, but I thought, he was lacking some wow plays as well. I thought he was sort of like a see it, throw it type guy. I didn't see tons of anticipation. So I'd be a little bit surprised if he did become some high level processor, but you never really know. I guess we'll find out. But apparently he's been, showing more athleticism in these summer camps and stuff. So maybe there's a little bit of untapped physical upside that we're just not quite seeing on tape yet. And so that's something I'm going to be open-minded about once I see senior tape. So if you can add a little more creativity like you're talking about, that would go a long way. I don't know if you got to be kind of good to start at Oregon, actually. So it's like, I don't know if he's going to be good enough. If he doesn't take that next step, I don't know. Based on what I'm seeing right now, I'm not sure if I feel good about him starting at Oregon. Maybe after like a few years of development, but so it's a kind of a guy that it's more of like a name to know down the line type guy rather than someone you're gonna probably draft.
All right, fair enough. Matt, Akili Smith Jr.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with what you guys said. I I think he's going to be a good college quarterback. I definitely think the NFL upside there is limited. The arm doesn't look amazing, and like you said, I don't really see him as being this exceptional processor, which is what I immediately start looking for after I eliminate a guy as a high arm talent. Because if you don't have the arm, you're going to have to do anticipatory throws to account for that tiny window. So I'm not sure he has that. A lot of his plays on his highlight tape are, just throwing to guys down the field that are like 15 yards open, and with not much competition there. So I'm pretty lukewarm on him at the moment, just as an overall CTC fantasy player. Probably, if he gets a starting job in college, should be pretty decent, but I really don't see too much NFL upside there, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we've seen this from some. I mean, sometimes you've got Arch Manning, which we haven't seen, but the reviews seemed pretty good out of Texas, even though there were some people that said, "Oh, he's living off the name Manning." And then you've got Heward, who went to, I guess it was Washington, had to go to like Cal Poly or something like that for a year. I'm not sure he even started there. He's never done anything, and people really liked him. He was a high end, borderline 5-star guy. So these, offspring of NFL talents, I don't think there's any recipe. You really have to look at them as their own player because, some of them are great. Some of them, just are recognizable from the name alone. And so we'll see with Akili Smith. But right now, if he wasn't Akili Smith Jr., he'd be down in a barely draftable, I think, for fantasy, and probably a guy I would think looks a little more like a G5, guy at this point. So anyway, that's Akili Smith. Not to be too down on him, but if you like what we are doing on the official, go ahead and like and subscribe. Comment down below if you think he's great and you think he's gonna, take Oregon to the promised land.